Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And SandyClaws.
And Jacob Wile, too.
And tonight, we're talking Mr. Banks on Fantasia Month with the second installment, a retrospective on Fantasia 2000. Oh boy, folks. Man, oh man. This is I think this is a severely underrated movie, especially rewatching it. I think, if anything, it's a little on the short side, which is unfortunate. But honestly, guys, this is just kind of going to be my bold sort of blanket statement. I think in some ways, while this might not be as revolutionary as the original Fantasia, and it was certainly made for more, it wasn't as artistically inspired as the original Fantasia. I think by and by, I individually like all these segments better than the original Fantasia segments.
I have to say the same thing. I mean, I really love this, and this is the first time I've ever seen this, which I feel ridiculous now for, because I love it so much. I mean, just the whole depth that goes into, and the animation styles they use, and just the quality of the animation. It's come a long way in 60 years, so. And obviously it gives it benefit, but that you mentioned the fact that it was a lot shorter than the original, which I actually like that. I think I like things that are just short and sweet, and this wasn't so short that it's kind of like, okay, what did I pay for? But it's just it's nice and enjoyable. It's very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree with you guys very much so. Again, Tiki, I was surprised you just hit 100% what I was feeling about this movie. I mean, I'll admit, I think, I don't know if I'd go as far to say it's that every short in every segment in the first one, but I would say I agree with everything else you said, though, 100%, everything else.
I remember, I'm sorry, Jacob, hold on. Let me make this point really quick. I remember reading in a book somewhere, a Disney history book, a comparison between this and the original Fantasia, where if you look at it just from an aesthetic point of view, the original Fantasia, there's so many shots in the original Fantasia of people yawning or going to sleep or drowsing off. And this is the exact opposite. This is bombastic and full of energy and full of life. I'm sorry, Jacob. Go ahead. What's your experience with this one?
I mean, I do. Like I said, well, again with them, I do agree with what you said. I mean, the whole energetic, it's bombastic, it's great. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but in terms of my life, I actually got into both of these fairly recently within my recent life, my recent interest in animation. Though they've always been in the back of my mind, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
But what I'm trying to say there is, it's only recently I only started really appreciating them.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
But I do kind of see what you guys mean about this one being in several ways better and very different.
I mean, I feel blasphemous saying that just because the original is such a classic and such a landmark in cinema, but it's just the simple fact. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I stand on the fact that classic doesn't necessarily exclude something from scrutiny. So,
yeah, sure. Exactly. You said it very well, Jacob. Just because it's a classic doesn't mean you can't have anything bad to say about it, or can't say that something else is better than it.
I will say this. I'm sorry, Jacob.
Another thing I wanted to say was one thing that in my opinion, makes it a lot better, is that it explores a lot of different artistic styles and musical styles as well.
Yeah.
While the first was mainly classical music and a romantic style.
For sure.
Yeah, that's one thing that stuck out to me as well.
I will say this, and I think it's something to consider, is that I feel while this does improve on a great many things, I do feel in some ways if you kind of fuse elements from both, you get a far superior Fantasia. I think there's still there are kind of things that the other one does. For looking at both from either side, one has something over the other in some capacity, a different capacity, but in some capacity. For example, I think. The interludes are stronger in the original Fantasia, and overall, I think you have more of kind of I've always kind of said this, and I kind of echo this on the first one. Fantasia, especially on the rewatch, kind of solidified that the first Fantasia you need to be in the mood for to fully appreciate. It's art you need to be in the mood for, and it has this great magic about it. And again, you have your kind of the Deems Taylor, right?
Deems Taylor.
Right, the Deems Taylor of it all. It's kind of like in the magic, kind of the majesty of it all. In between, you have kind of the class and the class sophistication. Kind of, you have that kind of that.
There's almost kind of like an air of mysteriousness to the concert.
Exactly, and I feel you have that where this one does not have that. But at the same time, I think the shorter run time. I think this
one feels like a theme park Fantasia.
Exactly. This one I feel is more cohesive and rewatchable than the other one. The other one, again, it's like you're kind of analyzing art. It's like, well, yeah, of course this is great. Like, I love Starry Night, but you know what? It's there's still stuff in between Starry Night. It's not quite grabbing my fancy. And that's what art is. It's kind of subjective. You got kind of stuff that's going to grab you, some stuff that isn't. But this, I think, is more universally something that's going to engage an audience than that one is, for sure.
One thing
it's kind of a mixed on both of them in a good way.
Some people have actually put it like it's also a bad thing that it's like more commercial and like more accessible and like it's not as that's not as artsy.
Exactly, and that's the argument that's kind of existing between these two, which is the superior.
I will say, in terms of the interludes, I honestly, rewatching them, I like most of them. Most of them. Keyword, most of them.
All right, most of them. There's one I love, and it's picking up on something I loved in the first Fantasia. That's why I love one of these interludes very much so. It's more of an afterlude. It's kind of, I don't know, it's technically be an interlude, but
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know exactly. We'll get there.
All right.
I have to say, of course, they at this point in time they have the wonderful thing that is 3D animation to work with. I think it was a little bit overused in the Whales segment, but it's not something that bothered me to the extent that it's completely unenjoyable.
Let's put a pin in that one when we break down the individual shorts. But I absolutely see your points, and that's something I want to expound upon. Just let's get through some background if we.
Oh yeah,
Jacob, I'm sorry. It sounded like you had something you wanted to say.
No, I mean it's about the whole whale thing, but I'll wait for the short.
All right. So, folks, background on this thing. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find as much as I was about the original because, let's face it, the background on the original Fantasia is one of the most fascinating stories in Hollywood history, I think.
It's almost as famous as the film itself.
Exactly. It's almost kind of like a Jaws or Apocalypse Now kind of situation. But so for this movie, of course, you have to keep in mind the original intent of Fantasia was to have it be a traveling roadshow concert feature where essentially one segment would be swapped out for another segment each time it ran. So, for example, I would imagine something like maybe Toccata and Fugue would probably be cut from the first run and replaced with something else, and then just going forward, so eventually it would evolve into something where there would be all new shorts, and then these new shorts would be rotated for even newer shorts. And honestly, that's just such a damn fascinating concept. And I wish so much that Disney would do that. Even on a stream, I would love it if Disney did that on a streaming level with their new streaming site or something like that. I don't know. Just some sort of experimental, rotation of shorts that all connects to each other. But anyways, work also was done to kind of maybe do some spiritual successors to Fantasia. In the 1960s, in the 1980s, Wolfgang Reitherman and Mel Shaw, who were two of the Nine Old Men, started to work on Musicana, which was going to be a feature film mixing jazz, classical music, myths, and modern arts, following the Fantasia style. Unfortunately, the project was canceled in favor of Mickey's Christmas Carol. Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg were also interested in doing a Fantasia with Beatles music, believe it or not.
Really?
Yes. Yes, I'm not even joking.
That's Katzenberg for you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? It would have featured all Beatles songs rather than classical music. But probably for the better, they could not get a hold of the rights to the Beatles music, so alas. Okay, so the 1990 re-release of Fantasia did a very impressive gross of $25 million domestically, and they thought about probably doing something, they thought about hey, maybe this would be an opportunity to start work on a proper Fantasia sequel. And this is where the idea to do all new shorts came from. So Thomas Schumacher was kind of one of the lead people behind this project. He was I'm sorry.
Don Hahn.
Yeah, Thomas Schumacher
and Don Hahn.
Yeah,
really big guys in the responsible for kind of the Disney Renaissance in many.
Sure. Okay, so
Jeffrey Katzenberg one, like, this is like one of the project while he was there, that is the one that he did not oversee himself during the Renaissance time.
Katzenberg was actually very against this movie because he was bitter that his Beatles idea didn't get. I'm not even kidding. He was like really hung up on the Beatles idea.
I thought it was also more because he didn't think it would turn a profit.
I could be for that too. Yeah.
He made a whole Ant movie out of spite. That's Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Right. Oh God. Anyways. So basically, Thomas Schumacher met with James Levine, who ended up being the conductor, kind of the Stokowski of this movie. And James Levine, it was basically originally they had a conversation over a 3-minute version of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. And James Levine said, I think with the right 3 minutes, it would be beautiful. And that conversation kind of stemmed from developing basically everything in the movie. They're talking about Pines of Rome, and James Levine actually was kind of more involved in the creation of the film than Stokowski was, because Stokowski was mostly just involved in Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then the Disney animators kind of took it from there. But Levine was kind of once Levine got involved, he was he was quoted to say he was a kid in a candy store, sort of like oh my God, like I love classical music and I love Disney, we could do this and this and this. And really it was a lot of Levine's ideas. Levine came up with the idea of the combining the two different styles, the music and the art for Rhapsody in Blue. He was very intrigued by the flying whales and Pines of Rome, and he really kind of put his stamp on the movie. So so production on this movie ran throughout the 1990s. It was originally going to be called Fantasia Continued, and then it was changed to 1999 and finally to Fantasia 2000 to coincide with its theatrical release. And most importantly,
which admittedly 2000 does make it sound cooler.
Yes, and of course this was back in the day when everything was 2000. It was like we had like Pokemon 2000. And...
God, you're right.
Anyways, okay, so of course the last bit to know is that this film was one of the first Disney films released on IMAX, and it was actually shot exclusively for IMAX, so they were kind of Christopher Nolaning it. And I think this film has just a huge sense of scale to it that you can really see even just watching it on Netflix. Everything in this movie looks huge. So yeah, that's it. Okay, so let's talk about first, let's talk briefly about just kind of like the interludes in general, and we'll talk about the individual interludes as we go along. But of course, we start with Steve Martin, who I've heard criticism about his segment that he's just a little too goofy. But
do you guys want to make sure we are going to cover the symphony, right?
Oh my God, you're right. You're right. Okay, so. Well, really quick, let's just talk about the structure of the film as a whole, all right? And then we'll get into the individual stuff.
Okay, sure. Just want to make sure because I'm saying chronological thing. Anyway, yeah.
No, you're right. So I just want to get your guys' hot take just kind of as a whole. Like, the idea of using multiple celebrities as opposed to using the one, like, kind of like music historian who wasn't really a celebrity. Like, how do you think it kind of, like works with the film as a whole?
I don't mind... As an idea, I don't mind like using multiple different people. I just wish they're more related to, like, for example, we had Eric Goldberg later on. He has like he's a non-speaking cameo. I would have liked to hear like more like the people that had a hand in making it. Kind of we go to them,
Uh-huh.
I would have preferred that instead of just kind of the celebrity involved. But I like Steve Martin. I didn't love him here, but I like Pennant. I like a few of these guys. They didn't really add much to it.
Okay.
Guys,
we're talking about Steve Martin right now.
Oh. No.
No.
So on the whole, what do you think about the interludes?
Oh, the interludes. Oh, well, yeah, that's right.
They were
okay.
Good. They were serviceable. I mean, I didn't really find anything wrong with them. I mean, some of them were pretty interesting. I mean, I mean, really, the only one that really fit the theme was Penn and Teller with Mickey. Which
Yeah.
also was a friend of
And Quincy Jones.
Oh yeah, Quincy. I'll say this. Quincy Jones, I think the most appropriate of all
Mhm.
these. I think he was just absolutely like, the one you like. That's what I'm talking about. I wish they had a little bit more. Like somebody like had more of a connection to the project, or at least he helped make the project.
Penn and Teller might be my favorite one, though.
That wasn't bad either. Thing is, again, they're all again. It does smell like a little commercial. It does. It smells a
I
little.
will say I do like the updated set. I like how it's a little bit lighter, but it still kind of has that sense of, it's not quite as mysterious as the original one was. It's kind of like opened up a bit more.
It just doesn't have the majesty of Deems Taylor. Well, that's what it boils down to for a lot of it for me. It's like as fun as a few more. It's like what the Deems Taylor of all is that professionalism, man. It's just that's the magic.
Well, some people would describe Deems Taylor as like the curmudgeony professor that you have to take to the sock hop to loosen up in a screwball 1950s comedy.
God.
I tell you, boy, let me lecture you about music. Anyways. Okay, so yes, Dragon, let's talk about Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. Of course, the abstract piece of the film. Although I would say it's like the visuals are abstract, but this isn't like proper abstract art because this has a pretty clear narrative to it. Like it's not like Toccata and Fugue, where Toccata and Fugue is just imagery. You know what I mean?
I gotta tell you though, I kind of appreciated it because I think I liked it more than Toccata and Fugue. To be honest, I think I just liked it because it was a little bit more. I think it's a good. I think it's a better warm up. I mean, the other one, they're both warm ups to a degree. They are. They're both warm ups. I think just it's a solid beginner of the visuals you're going to see without being super impressive, without really telling really fleshed out story. It's got. I think it's a stronger music choice, and I think it's just kind of supported by it's kind of kind of sweet and simple visuals with kind of sweet and simple kind of classic music to go with. So Scott, that was a solid kind of beginner.
Oh yeah, I really do. I did like the visuals in this. I mean, the visual, just shows that like even with these abstract shapes and everything, you could still tell a very well concise narrative with this set to this music and everything.
Honestly, that's kind of my problem with it, is that the narrative is too concise for me. I don't know. That's why I kind of enjoyed Toccata and Fugue more than this. Because with Toccata and Fugue, I really like how it kind of like transitions from the orchestra to the abstract imagery. And that's another thing. What do you guys think of just how this film starts out instantly with this segment, and the segment doesn't really get a proper introduction or anything? It's just like, okay, we're in it, Beethoven, da-da-da-da.
Well, actually, it does have an introduction, like using the original movie's introduction to segue.
Well,
into
yeah,
it.
I mean, you're right. It does have that
Which
quick,
is neat.
It does have that quick sort of title card, but I'm saying we don't have a celebrity come out and talk like, oh, this is Beethoven's Fifth Symphony,
Well, two things. One, man, again, I like that. That's kind of the way we get a little bit of the Deems Taylor of it all. There, it's like I just love that device with kind of the floating kind of like title cards, and I like that device, and I kind of like that's kind of the most of the original Fantasia we get in there. At least we got some of it in there, so that's why I'm a little bit higher on this. I guess it kind of gives you like a history of Fantasia instead of like the actual Fantasia, and somehow it works for me. I don't know.
All right. Yeah, I do think I do like the fact that we get the Deems Taylor, and I talked about this before, how I was captivated by it as a kid, like the idea that Deems Taylor is talking about, like, imagine you're sitting in a concert hall and you close your eyes and you picture the images that might be accompanying to this music. And I like how it jumps right from that straight to Beethoven, where, it trusts that the audience gets what the concept of Fantasia is. You know what I mean?
I mean, this seems like more of a clear-cut, example of it.
I will say I like Toccata and Fugue more just on an artistic level, but I do think this is probably a better introduction and a better warm-up, as you said, Dragon.
Yeah.
I do think it bound like with the original, we have we have the whole extended sequence of the musicians tuning up, and then we have the Deems Taylor introduction, and then we get into the warm-up piece, and it's not really until we have Nutcracker, like maybe 15 minutes into the film, that we get our first proper segment, whereas this just kicks stuff off right away.
Yeah.
Sandy, anything to say?
Well, I like the introduction here because I think even though there's no like proper celebrity introduction to this specific piece, with all these different abstract creatures, I want to call them, that appear to resemble butterflies of some sort.
It's butterflies
I think
and bats, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, that's what it looked like.
Or the quote
Anyways,
YouTube comments, Dorito butterflies.
I like this. I like the meaning. Well, not the meaning. I like the symbol of the triangle being used. The fact that it's kind of like digital imaging, there's kind of many forms. You make anything out of triangles, just kind of put together. So kind of like a little bit of that.
And there's like thousands of butterflies on screen at the same time in this.
Kind of where 2D and 3D kind of meets in kind of a metaphorical way. It's like, hey, it's triangles, but it's like it's a bunch of triangles.
You can definitely tell they
turned me into triangles. I hate triangles.
All right.
So pointy.
All right.
I'll show you pointy. All right. I'm sorry.
if I may continue now,
Yeah.
I like it because I think it leaves this whole concept up for the audience to interpret for themselves. Each individual person deciding for themselves what this whole thing is supposed to mean. I guess it adds that aura of mystery to this whole introduction here. I like it. I do.
Okay, let's move on to Steve Martin. No, seriously, let's move on to Pines of Rome. Okay, really quick, let's talk about Steve Martin. What do we think of his interlude?
Jacob?
I didn't mind him. I liked what he did. I mean, he was Steve Martin.
That pan is really the pan is really bad. How we keep like they're doing something, he's doing some comedy, like we pan away, says, hey, camera over here. It's like it's really noticeable with all of these where it's just like, okay, we start something, we pan over. It's like, oh man, that feels, it's like that's the way you visually communicate a joke bombing. That feels bad. I feel bad for Steve. Like, oh, poor Steve.
I really didn't mind him. I really did.
No,
it's Steve Martin. It's
I
just
think Steve Martin would have been a good host for like the whole thing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not saying Steve Martin was bad. I'm just saying the way he was used was kind of could have used him better.
I hear you. I think Steve Martin, like he's kind of like he's a little bit more like I feel like he could have been a little bit. Like he has the humor to kind of balance out. Like he has both humor and class, which is something that you would kind of need for a host. And like I said, I really feel like this, like he could have been the Deems Taylor of this movie.
Yeah, potential.
I don't know. I've heard people kind of complain about him goofing around too much, like with the fiddle and everything like that. But I don't mind it. I just think it's in his brand of humor. So. Anyway, so yes, let's talk about the magnificence that is Pines of Rome. Jesus Christ, this thing is beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Go on, Jake.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you all can remember, as we mentioned earlier, this is pretty much like my first ever thing I saw in Fantasia when I saw the trailers for it and the VHSs of old.
Mm-hmm.
It's like flying whales, Fantasia. What is this?
I like the entire concept here. I like the flying whales. I love the beautiful paintings, just the backgrounds. It's amazing.
This whole thing feels like a painting to me.
Yeah, but
it feels like an abstract
CGI,
surrealist painting come to life.
But I'm gonna go back to the CGI thing. It's the CGI bugs me because I see these beautiful paintings and everything, and then I see this big CGI thing come into the shot. It's like, oh, come on, just no, get that out of here. Come on, get us some nice 2D animation like Donald and Noah's Ark, all that stuff.
I mean, honestly, I don't mind it just because I think stylistically it's so radically different from anything we've seen in a Fantasia movie up until this point.
And it actually works well with the paintings and the fact that can you imagine having to individually animate all those whales?
Oh God. Oh. I will say, Sandy, I'm kind of like half and half with you on this. I do think some of the shots look a little dated. Like, for example, the shots, like, I think in theory, the shots where there's like hundreds of whales on screen at the same time, it's like, it's magnificent in theory. And at first glance, it looks incredible. The problem is that it's pretty obvious once you know how computer animation works that it's basically just the same model of whale, just copy and pasted over and over and over and over again, doing the same animation. So some of it is kind of primitive animation in terms of CGI compared to today's standards.
It's basically just the same model of whale, just with different texturing on it.
Exactly, right. So I see what you mean there. As Jacob said, though, I just think I think the style blends pretty well with the backgrounds, though.
I think the colors do. I don't particularly think the CGI itself does. I think if they added some nice 2D over the CGI, just to give it a little bit more of a flat look, but still keeping that 3-dimensional feel there.
Right, is the eyes of the baby whale.
Mm-hmm.
Which, to me, that kind of works. The eyes in general, I think, are kind of like 2D-esque. I don't know.
Yeah, on the whole, I think it's just comparatively, I think it's the weakest segment out of the whole thing. Comparatively, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I think the other ones kind of outshine it. I do love the beam effect. We have that great looking kind of like that beam of light, and then the one whale's kind of swimming in the it's being floated up. I mean, that's
there's a ton of. I think this is. Here's the thing: is that Fantasia 2000, a lot of the shorts are very narrative driven, and I like the fact that this is just kind of like this crazy thing that happens. It's, the crazy concept that somehow the northern lights in Alaska cause a bunch of humpback whales to float up into the heavens. It's
something you see out of it's something like you see in a Chris Van Allsburg book.
Right. It's crazy. It's just like crazy surrealism, and I love the fact that this short just kind of takes on like it's abstract. You know what I mean? It's like halfway between a narrative and an abstract piece in a way. Because, of course, you do have a little bit of narrative with the baby whale, which, by the way, I love the shot of the baby whale when he's trapped in the ice and he sees the mother whale beneath the ice, behind the ice. Just, I don't know, all kinds of really stunning visuals here. I love the shot as they're flying and they, they're flying over the clouds and they see the valley in the distance. It's, like I said, I think the visual splendor of this short is really more than anything else. It's certainly not a great narrative, but
my favorite shot is like this. My favorite shot is the ending where they're flying above the clouds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all
basically the ending.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think this one is just it's style over substance. You're right; it is beautiful. I'll say this: I think this, and there's one other segment. I think are kind of they're low on the totem. Not bad. None of them are bad, but I think they have the least substance. But what this one has over the other one is that this one it looks more beautiful. It's more memorable than the other one. The other one's just kind of like it's kind of it's intermission practically. So we'll.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Okay.
And neither bad. Just this one's more impressive than it. So I want to amend my students, and this is like the least favorite. So again, it's comparatively, it's just it's solid for substance, not bad. Just it's good to look at.
Okay.
I'm listening to it, but
So let's move on to Rhapsody in Blue, which oh my god, this thing is so good.
Oh yeah, this one might be the best one here. I mean, again, there can be an argument made for like this and another one, but this, oh my god.
I'd like to see an entire feature animated like this.
Yeah, so we have Quincy Jones. Does the introduction?
A very solid, very short but classy introduction.
Yeah.
Of course, this is. I love the concept of this, and like I said, this is something that James Levine was really into. The whole, mixing Al Hirschfeld with George Gershwin, mixing the two New York art styles.
Hirschfeld actually worked on this. He's like the visual consultant on this short.
Mm-hmm.
Well, something else you got to remember, Eric Goldberg, I want to say he directed I know he animated this, I want to say he directed it too, but Eric Goldberg, he's a huge Hirschfeld fan. Of course, in Aladdin, when he's working on that, he had worked in a few Hirschfeld homages. This is his dream project, and you have to work, actually, as Jacob said, you get to work with Hirschfeld. Well, it's just kind of a dream, a dream come true for him, and it's great. It's a marvelous one. I think it's just kind of a great kind of tribute to New York in a way.
And the overweight guy kind of reminded me of Goldberg a little.
That's the thing; it's modeled after him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's
there's this film is just this short is just so relatable. It just touches on the human condition. I think it's beautiful. This short has a beautiful message of like someone's day-to-day mundanity might be someone else's dream. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Just the narrative in this is amazing. It's the most impressive narrative we've got in any of the Fantasia segments. I'll say that much. The style's great. I love that we start off in the Hirschfeld style, which is famously, just
the one line.
Yeah, I love that. Gives us the city. That gives us our main setting. The rest, of course, you can't animate entirely on one line because that'd be impossible. But I love that we start out that way. Then we kind of communicate. What Hirschfeld's all about. It's a tribute to Hirschfeld's a tribute to cities. A tribute to kind of like crossover and storytelling. I love the crossover and the storytelling so much. We have kind of our four main characters. We have. Let's see. It's
Duke, Joe, Rachel, and John.
Yeah, the construction guy, the working guy, the mother, mother and child, the kids, right? The little girl, and of course the Eric Goldberg looking guy, John. Yes. They're great, very diverse characters, and they all have like kind of a great kind of visual thing among them. One kind of the tie and the hat just kind of looking for work. Again, they're all very cool, and I just love how their stories kind of cross over. So I'm so amazed by the storytelling on this.
I also think the style, like out of all the Fantasia 2000 shorts, this one feels the most like a classic Walt Disney short.
It does.
Like this one almost kind of like I know it's Hirschfeld, but it almost kind of has the style of something like Toot Whistle Pluck and Boom, or one of those like old school like music based like like Donald Duck and Math Magic Land or something like that.
There's some fun gags, with the walnuts. Again, it's like we're in a push to reality. We're in a very cartoony reality, but at the same time, we're kind of telling it's done in a realistic way. Yet we're pushing. It's cartoon physics, but we're still doing it in kind of a grounded setting.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Rockefeller fantasies, that was a great kind of section of kind
the
of
ice skating. Yeah, yes. That's that might be my favorite section.
I really love the symbolism of that. Like it showed what they wanted and how it's like. They each have what they need, basically.
And again, just the convergence at the end with all of them, at the club and everything else. It's so beautiful. It almost makes you want to weep at how a great marvel it is. It really is great.
All right. Okay, let's get into Steadfast Tin Soldier, introduced by Bette Midler. Let's talk about Bette Midler first.
Oh boy, saddle up, folks.
This is by far the worst part of the entire film. Is this Bette Midler introduction? This is the Tiki Room under new management of Fantasia introductions. Because I
don't really see how.
It's basically Bette Midler being like, "Hey, look at all these stupid ideas for Fantasia shorts that never came to be. Well, gee, it sounds so stupid. No wonder it never got made."
Wouldn't you love to be an animator watching this?
Honestly,
your work get crashed by a celebrity.
Honestly, I think you're wrong on there. She never really said they were stupid or anything like that.
I don't think it's as. Sorry, Jake.
We're never acted in such a way to imply that.
I think what Tiki is referring to is just the fact that she has to point out all these rejected ideas that never got made.
Well, it's also just the whole, like, she points out, like, she not only calls Salvador Dali the melting clock guy, but she also is like, she criticizes the whole concept behind Destino, like, oh, whoever thought that concept would have worked? I don't know. It's just like...
I don't think it's as pointed as...
Honestly, I didn't get that vibe from her at all.
Fair enough. To each your own.
I did. I'm with you, Tiki.
All right. It's a split audience here. That's fine.
Yeah, it's probably not as pointed as Tiki's making it out to be.
As far as the short goes, I think this is my favorite short. I think it is.
All right. Well, let's continue the divisiveness because this is my least favorite short.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on.
One, I got deep ties to the story they told. I've always, what they did here is they kind of, if I'm right, they kind of took the Tin Soldier. So traditionally, a lot of the time, when people are telling the Nutcracker, and they kind of make it into sort of, like, I always remember the House of Mouse, and they did their take on the Nutcracker. They basically kind of mixed the Nutcracker with the Tin Soldier story.
Hey, Dragon, I feel about this one the same way you feel about Pines of Rome. Like, it's not that I dislike it at all. It's just if I had to pick one that was the least engaging to me, it would be this one. Like, this is probably the one that I kind of, like, check my watch the most at, like, it's... Don't get me wrong, it's a great story. It has some great animation, and of course, I think probably the most memorable element of this short is the frickin' Jack in the Box.
Yeah, and the fact that we incinerate him.
Yep. I do think this short has a great sort of like dark atmosphere to it. Like, I love the shot of the rats in the sewer and everything like that. Like, this short doesn't shy away from kind of like, it's kind of funny. Like, this short is kind of like, even though the ending is changed and everything, it's sort of like the dark take on Hans Christian Andersen that we didn't really get with The Little Mermaid. You know what I mean? Like, The Little Mermaid was so watered down that it didn't even feel like Hans Christian Andersen, and this very much feels like Hans Christian Andersen.
For me, I feel I love this kind of it's this cute love story that the way it's told, I think it's so on point with the emotion and the action. I like visually how we're kind of communicating this story. How we see we see this this one-legged and one-legged tin soldier, and he sees he sees the ballerina, and he her legs up in the position, and he thinks, hey, I got a shot, and then the leg comes down, but she grabs the hand. She says, hey, don't be discouraged. I love that. That's some great. I just love how we're communicating that stuff with kind of this with no dialogue. It's
I think that's the biggest thing is that there's no dialogue. It's all conveyed by action and music.
Yeah, and again, it's sort of I've seen adapted and kind of melded with other stories before. I've seen this before, and seeing it again. It's been a while since I've seen Fantasia 2000. I was like, oh yeah, and that really was a well-told story. And a little tin soldier kind of defeats the bad guy, gets the girl. That's nice.
Again, it's not that I dislike this one. It's just like with my Fantasia, I kind of prefer the more sort of like abstract stuff, and so I don't know. I think, to be honest with you, I think it's the fact that it's a classic fairy tale, honestly, kind of I know this is like a total nitpick. Like, I almost feel like this short feels less like a Fantasia short and more like something that would play before, like a traditional Disney animated short. The music, I don't know. Like, that's another thing. Like, Piano Concerto No. 2. Like, I feel like out of all the shorts, this is the one. Maybe this is a nitpick on my part. Maybe you guys don't feel the same way about it at all. But to me, this is the one where, besides just the fact that it's kind of like a marching song, and we have the soldier, it doesn't really match up with the animation all that well for me.
I have to say the music was definitely not the standout part of this whole thing. The music wasn't memorable at all for me.
Yeah, I think this is probably like the like we were talking about Rite of Spring being the unmemorable music of the original Fantasia. I think this is kind of like the Rite of Spring. Like it's a decent enough tune, but it's just not iconic.
I think it conveyed the emotion in the moment, but it's not memorable,
Right.
I don't necessarily think that's a problem. You're right. I agree with Sandy in that it didn't, it doesn't stand out. But I would say I think it does. Goes along with it well. I don't think it's like out of place. It's not like doesn't steal the show or anything. But it's solid.
All right. Okay, let's move on to the Carnival of Animals.
This essentially it's more. Oh wait, we have a funny introduction.
This is one of my favorite introductions with Quincy Jones and of course Eric Goldberg.
James Jones.
Oh, James Earl. I'm sorry. Wrong Jones. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. We have James Earl Jones. I don't know. I really love how like James Earl Jones is talking like really seriously about like the nature of life and the relationship to animals. Eric Goldberg hands him
what would happen if you give a yo-yo to a flock of flamingos? Who wrote this?
That's funny. And again, overall, this to me would probably be the lowest on the totem pole, just because
it's meant to be the lowest on the totem pole, though.
Exactly. This is like the we don't really have an intermission. This really is kind of filling the role of the intermission. It's kind of like
the soundtrack segment. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's exactly that. It's just it's a little more animated.
I always go to this one on YouTube just because, like, when I'm like in the mood for something Fantasia, but I just want to see something short. I always go to this one because just like so lively, and like it has that's totally oozing with Eric Goldberg's style in it. It just for me, that makes it like one of it does make it one of the highlights for me, actually.
I love the
very
concept.
much.
I love the just the animation and just the whole concept. It's very I guess goofball would be the best way to put it. Just all the elements of the whole entire short just come together really nicely for me.
It is very much marketed like Dance of the Hours.
I can see that.
It just makes it what makes it a highlight for me. Mainly because like how short and how brief, but how funny and out of place it is.
Yeah.
I mean, the animation is just like it's like silk smooth. It goes so fast. Oh my god, it's so.
It's impressive.
It's yet another Eric Goldberg special.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not much to say about it, but I'm kind of more on Jacob's side, where I think it's more of a highlight. Because here's the thing, like sometimes, especially with the original Fantasia, those shorts dragged, man. Like stuff like Rite of Spring and the Pastoral Symphony. Oh my god, they would go on and
sometimes this isn't a dig at all. Sometimes they just took themselves way too seriously. This is just like Fantasia cutting loose and having fun.
For sure. And it's still very much in the style of Fantasia with the classical music. And I do think this is actually one of the segments where, unlike Tin Soldier, I think it's a very memorable piece of music, and it works incredibly well with the animation.
Well, the point I want to emphasize with this is that it's the thing. It feeds into the whole it's engaging. It's like there's no boring moment for me. I don't think there's anything boring about this Fantasia. You don't risk boredom with any of these segments. Where I feel in the first one you do risk boredom. When
in the first one, honestly, besides Sorcerer's Apprentice, there's boring moments in every segment.
That's what I'm saying. So even though this one isn't the most kind of I don't want to say just gripping. Again, it's engaging. The point is like it's going to entertain you. It's going to keep you seated. It's going to keep you're waiting, but at the same time you're waiting with like, hey, this is kind of fun. Mm-hmm. Where the other one's like, okay, waiting for the volcano. And
right. No, I hear you. Like, for me, whenever I watched the original Fantasia as a kid, it'd always be like, okay, I'm waiting till Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then like, okay, I'm waiting till Night on Bald Mountain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this one, you don't even wait for Sorcerer's Apprentice. Like, okay, well, it's marketed on it, but is it going to be in there? When's it coming up? It's like, you're not really waiting for it. It's like, okay, when it shows up, it'll show up.
Honestly, on the rewatch, I was like, oh, man, I just watched Sorcerer's Apprentice like a week ago. I don't want to watch Sorcerer's Apprentice again.
I didn't. I just skipped it.
That's what I did.
Fair enough.
Mainly because I'm trying to stick to schedule. I just watched it the other day, so.
Right. Okay, so I guess that's a good transitioning point. Let's get to Sorcerer's Apprentice. And of course, I don't know. I think it's a little fucking creepy that Stokowski is just hanging out. Does that unnerve anyone else that he's just like he's never moved from that podium in the 60 years between Fantasia and Fantasia 2000?
Like that is kind of creepy.
Like I shall stay here to achieve immortality.
God.
Now that you mentioned it, that is kind of creepy. He just like after Mickey leaves, he just stands back there, just
right.
He just doesn't move.
I mean, I guess that fits with him because he was kind of creepy in the original too.
Well, no, they brought him to score they brought him to score Sorcerer's Apprentice. That's why they brought him. He's in there.
Which is accurate because, like, the Sorcerer's Apprentice track that they use is the original track scored by him. So I guess it makes sense.
Well, Tiki, maybe they froze his body first.
Oh God.
But, we are forgetting Penn and Teller.
Well, I mean, very quickly, I also like that James Levine gets a moment with Mickey, too.
Me too.
I think Penn and Teller is my favorite, as Dragon was going on. I personally think Penn and Teller is like the best, mainly along with the Quincy Jones, thematically as well as humorously.
And wait, oh my God, I'm just realizing that this segment is not. Yeah, you're right. This is the outro segment to Sorcerer's Apprentice. Okay, my bad. Okay, Penn and Teller. I agree with Jacob. Penn and Teller, I think, is by far the best interlude. I don't know. I love the humor of Penn and Teller. I love how they connect. I love how Penn connects Sorcerer Mickey to Teller.
Yep.
Like, wait a minute, small guy, kind of a troublemaker, doesn't talk. I don't know. Just
Mickey's face is kind of off, but it's something.
Just in this one still, it seems.
I also noticed that they re-recorded the dialogue when he's talking to Stokowski, which I think is kind of odd. I mean, I guess it's just to fit more to have like a more smooth transition to when he goes to talk to James Levine, but I don't know, it's just like it's odd to me just because like the original audio, you know, like Mr. Stokowski, you know, it's so iconic, you know. It's I don't know.
Well, let me just get. I thought we were gonna like maybe recap a little bit of Sorcerer's Apprentice, but I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't have much to say that we haven't already said. Sandy, you haven't talked about Sorcerer's Apprentice yet, so how do you feel about Sorcerer's Apprentice?
Well, I mean, it's Sorcerer's Apprentice. I mean, there's I mean, I think it's. I don't know. It's a Disney classic. There's not a whole lot to say. I guess I don't really have a whole lot to say. But. It's a classic. It's a classic. That.
So I think importantly, let's just talk about the placement of Sorcerer's Apprentice within the rest of the film. I don't know. To me, like honestly, I sort of wish they would have gone the whole extra mile and just like it's not that Sorcerer's Apprentice. Well, I will say it. Yes, I do think it kind of slows down the movie a little bit.
I think they should have put it in the very end just to top everything off.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
What about if it opened it? Like after the warm-up, they did Sorcerer's Apprentice?
I think after the warm-up, yeah. I think that would have been better after the warm-up, yeah. Because, Sandy, the thing is, I think Firebird ends this thing so magnificently.
Oh, that's right. Firebird ends it, doesn't it? Okay. Okay, never mind.
I see Sandy's point, though. I see the benefits of kind of ending on the traditional variant, but at the same time, you could say you could open on kind of like, okay, here's the past, and then we're moving to the future versus hey, a little reverence for the past towards the. I get where he's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But something.
Go ahead, Dragon.
I was going to say just one thing so I can get in there. I love the. Of course, my favorite moment from the first Fantasia is the interaction between Mickey and Stokowski, and I do love. And I forgot how kind of seamless it was here. I love that because it's been a while since I've seen it. I thought at the end, it's like, okay, I always see that. I was thinking that's kind of out of place because Stokowski isn't really established this, but then we saw this scene here, like, oh my god, they animated the thing where he ran and he met the new guy, and it was nice, and we have like some behind the scenes shenanigans going on there. It was cute. Kind of reminded me of kind of when I saw.
I love the behind the scenes shenanigans where James Levine is trying to be like James Levine is essentially trying to be Deems Taylor.
Yeah. And what I love about it too is it reminds me of kind of Phil Harmagic a little bit. When they have the Donald Duck kind of getting shenanigans in shadow as well.
I could see that.
It's a fun little fun little kind of backstage thing to tack onto it to kind of put in between settings. So yeah, I appreciate. I still got a kick. I got a kick out of kind of the mid-tro.
Honestly, I think this, like, the mid-tro is kind of like the only reason to have Sorcerer's Apprentice in there, or else I'd say just cut it out.
That was a nice way of just kind of saying, I really wish they would have done some sort of flourish to Sorcerer's Apprentice. I wish they would do something like
I'm glad you mentioned that, too, because honestly, it's kind of, like, the aspect ratio is off from the rest of the segments and everything. Yeah. It's weird.
It would have been nice to, like, remaster it or something. But, again, it was nice at least they tacked on something a little new, which would be this kind of this mid-tro. At least they did something with it, and, of course, celebrating the past. So, a little bit of column A, column B.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to Pomp and Circumstance. Oh,
I take what I said back about the soldier short. This is my favorite short. This is my favorite short. Donald Duck. Oh, I love Donald Duck. I absolutely love
To be honest with you, I think this one is incredibly underrated. I really do.
It's kind of weird that Donald's looking at other ducks right now.
Oh, God. No. Oh, God.
This just kind of occurred to me. It's the screenshot. Wait a minute.
Honestly, in the story, I always assumed that Donald and Daisy were the ducks.
I know, story. Right? That's what I thought. Why are there other ducks? I never saw this setup. Like,
I think the animators just put those in there to troll us. Like trying to figure this out. You sucker.
With the fact that the unicorns and dragons are lagging off, and the fact that
I love the unicorns and dragons. I love that little detail. That's
funny. Yeah, that was. I forgot that on rewatch. Like, yeah, that's really clever.
We'll survive.
I also kind of
a dark joke, but it's funny.
I would like to think that the fact that the reason why Donald isn't at the boat when Noah calls him is because he was like, you know, like getting ready backstage. And that's why Noah had to like go up to him, you know, in the hammock and everything. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I buy into that.
It's like it breaks the fourth wall of the narrative of the short.
I think that's
a good story integration with that.
Right. In this, of course, it's like we've got the whole American Tail thing going on with Donald and Daisy, where it's like, just turn around, just turn around. They're right there.
Did you notice that the polar bears look like the ones from Balto?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I love Daisy in this one because she's not you know, a jerk. You know,
this is one of my favorite Daisy roles. I agree.
This and Mickey's Christmas Carol, Daisy is really good in.
Because Daisy, like, I feel like House of Mouse sort of set the modern precedent for Daisy, where she's kind of just like a gossip.
Yeah.
And that's like not, you know, it's much better when she's like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I really like the pathos that we got with that story of the two of them just missing each other. One, it's a strange blend that works, oddly enough, the whole Noah's Ark and the graduation music. That's kind of a fun. That's kind of
because the points where they play the iconic graduation music is, you know, like the da 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 da.
It just kind of goes hand in hand. It's such a bizarre combination, but it works.
Boy, I love how they time it, where it's the animals marching onto and off of the boat. It's perfectly well timed. It makes sense within the context of the story that it would be a march.
Although it does point out in the beginning earlier that it's like it wasn't written like specifically for graduations, but for like solemn events and other things like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the things that people give this too much crap for is like, oh, it's the graduation. It's too distracting because it's the graduation song. Like, well, yeah, but it works. It works in the context.
They're graduating to life, you pea-brain. Right. They're graduating to life.
What did you say, Sandy?
I was just wondering through the entire short when Daisy was gonna like take her hood off because it's not raining anymore. Like, are these characters are they like raincoats or something? That's what I got.
Well, it's flooding, so there's gonna be a lot of rain on the outside.
Oh, I know, but for most of the short, it's daytime.
I just realized that Donald's robe kind of looks like Mickey's.
A little bit, yeah, you're right. I think that's appropriate though, because
this is different.
I mean, I think this is supposed to be kind of like a spiritual successor to Sorcerer's Apprentice in a lot of ways.
I think you're on the money with that. That was the intention, it seems.
If there's a Fantasia 3, there has to be Goofy in one of those.
Yes, I completely agree, Jacob. Oh, yeah. Yes.
I love looking at this still here. I love the colors, the blue mixed with the red and white and orange here. It's all that just.
I also love the scale of the arc. The arc just looks huge.
Yeah.
Like it actually did the story of Noah's Ark justice. Like it actually followed the story pretty well.
Yeah,
it followed the story better than the Darren Aronofsky version did,
and better than Evan Almighty.
Oh God, way better than Evan Almighty. God.
But yeah, seriously.
Honestly, Evan Almighty is one of my least favorite films of all time, honestly.
It's really
anyways.
Anyway, so the thing I got to give this one major points for, and again, speaking to kind of the quality of Daisy's character, and this is that, again, I love the pathos between Donald and Daisy, because they do think that the other has possibly died in the flood. And it's, again, like they're mourning, they're looking for each other. It's again, a great kind of a myriad of emotions between the two of them, and ultimately they meet up in the end. So it's nice kind of emotional stuff we get with these characters.
For sure. Okay, let's move on to the grand finale, the Firebird.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so really quickly, we get a short introduction that's basically just like introducing what it is by Angela Lansbury. I like how short and to the point it is and classy. This might be one of my favorite celebrity interludes too, and I think Angela Lansbury, like I said, she's another person that I feel like could be in contention to host the whole thing.
Oh, sure. I mean, who doesn't like Angela Lansbury?
Right. And, of course, he's just coming off of Beauty and the Beast a few years later, a few years earlier at that point. So
and many years earlier, Murder, She Wrote.
Yes. Okay, Firebird is my favorite Fantasia segment.
Period or just for
period?
Okay.
Period.
Why?
I can totally see why that would be. I mean, it's just jaw-droppingly amazing.
What I like is that it incorporates like the Nine on Bald and Ave Maria without being two separate segments.
Right, yeah.
Like the whole destruction and terror, but also, well, that's actually also working in a pretty decent jump scare.
Oh God, yeah, a good jump scare, yeah.
I mean, look at this beautiful shot we have before us here of the Firebird, and if you look on the left side there, it's like little. Look how little the sprite is, just so little. Is on that little green, almost like an olive on almost like an olive on a toothpick or something, with this giant ominous. Oh my God, this phoenix-like Firebird around her.
And all 2D animation in its glory.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is a. You know, it's so intimidating. This is
definitely where they spend all their budget on. You can tell.
Yeah. I think this is where the 3D and the 2D animation come into play very nicely together. You know, it's not too obviously one or the other. It's a very nice mix.
I love that the story it's simple but stunning. That's what the best way to summarize the shorts. You know, it's the sprite kind of bringing the spring at the same time. You get all this, a lot of bad stuff, and it's very direct in the story, and it's so stunningly told.
And from destruction comes life.
Yeah, I mean, this just really, really hits me. I mean, I've always been a nature lover, so just that aspect alone. Also, you know what's really fascinating to me?
It embodies the Fantasia philosophy.
Well, yes, it does. It does. You're right. But
close your eyes and you imagine the opera in your mind, in a way.
I feel like both this and Pines of Rome take place in Alaska.
Really?
I think it's not because I mean Pines of Rome I think obviously takes place in Alaska because we see the Northern Lights.
If that's the case, I'm going, Sandy.
I think that's not too far a stretch from what could possibly.
If that is true, I love the fact that they use Alaska as like bookends.
Yeah, if it's intentional and the bookend quality is really great, but I don't know if I buy that.
Was that an elk or a deer in that?
It was an elk.
An elk.
I like saying because if it was a deer, it could be the great king of the forest.
One thing I love, I think the elk was my favorite part of this because the eyes are just striking.
The eyes are just like the eyes just in general with both the elk and the sprite.
It's striking.
It's got a really nice ending.
I love the shot where the sprite is staring at the stone Firebird, and she's just like looking at it with like wonder, and you're just like, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.
Then it suddenly like actually pulls off a very effective jump scare with the music and everything.
Right.
I mean, it's just the music itself, but they add the imagery to it as the jump scare.
And the Firebird himself, I mean, like, as much as I like the Chernobog, and Chernobog probably has more personality, this thing is it's just so epic.
They're forces of nature. One's a little bit more merciful, the other one is just raining death.
Right.
It's the eternal, it like represents the eternal conflict of life versus destruction.
And of course, life rebuilds. That's the great message that goes out on that. Hey, all destruction, you're gonna regrow. You gotta.
Life finds a way.
Well, sure.
And the grand finale where you see like that volcano covered in green, and then the sprite pops up and you see her just float off with the elk. Oh God, goosebumps, man, just goosebumps. So
this
good.
Itself could this is another one that could be like made into its own short.
I think you could make a movie out of this, honestly.
Vera Farmiga as the sprite.
Oh God! Oh man!
Come on, Dragon.
Tell me she would not make a good sprite.
Don't to everything.
But seriously, think about it.
Oh man. Anyways, okay.
She's an innocent.
All right. Let's not end this whole thing on Vera Farmiga, okay? But I mean, I kind of feel like we're talking in circles. It's just a stunning piece of animation. It's glorious. It's epic. It's absolutely just like, it's inspirational. It's everything that you want out of art.
It's fantastic.
And it stands up probably even above the original Fantasia achieved. Like, it's like it takes all what they learned and more and today's techniques to create this epic masterpiece, this perfect meld of imagery and music.
Yeah,
Like, Walt
And imagine
was-
seeing this.
pretty
Imagine
much
seeing this on the
what
big
Walt
screen
was
with all the
going
classical
for.
music and everything. Ah, that must have been something.
I really wish they'd re-release Fantasia 2000.
Yeah.
Maybe in 2020 for the 20-year anniversary. I don't know.
Yeah,
That'd be
the next one, they
nice.
could have like kind of a triple feature.
Right? Okay, guys, so I think we've run the gauntlet on this thing. Any final thoughts on Fantasia 2000?
Well,
An underrated. It's
We pretty
an
much set our
underrated.
piece. We pretty much set our piece with this. I mean, it's beyond stunning. It's definitely a visual showcase with all kinds of different visual and audio styles. It's an animator's and music aficionado's dream.
yeah, you got to be in the mood for
So
the. Go on.
Or should I say their fantasy? Sorry.
Well, I mean, it's kind of again, it doesn't have all the magic of the first one, but again, it just makes up for that with just kind of how kind of wonderfully kind of cohesive and rewatchable and entertaining it is. That's the main thing stressed with this. That this is probably, I think, again, making the runtime shorter. It's it's more heavy. You don't lose any momentum.
I honestly
You have
wish
a
there were
shorter
more
runtime.
shorts. Honestly, like I want to see more.
I don't know. I think they had a good kind of balance with the shorter amount. I don't know. I think it's kind of helps in the long run for like kind of people kind of checking out and enjoying it versus like kind of the commitment it is to watch the first one.
I guess fair enough. I mean, I'm saying like I'd kind of like meet it, but like I'd add like one more short to this thing. Because here's the thing with the runtime is that I feel like Carnival of Animals, as fun as it is, it doesn't like it shouldn't qualify as a full short because it is only 2 minutes, and it does qualify as like one of the 8 segments. I think there should have been a 9th segment, like somewhere in between Carnival of Animals and Sorcerer's Apprentice and the Noah's Ark. I don't know. Maybe this is just me being selfish. Like I just love all the stuff in this movie so much that I just want to see more of it. But
Oh no, I'm with you. There should have been
like,
one more.
I mean, Dragon, I agree with you that it shouldn't have been the 2-hour like task that the original Fantasia was. But I do think that like 90 minutes, I think would have been perfect. As it stands now, I think the runtime is really the only thing that keeps me from saying that this is a better piece of work than the original. But anyways, Sandy, your final thoughts?
As for the runtime, I think the runtime on this is, for me at least, it's perfect because something with Fantasia, I find it difficult to get through just because it's just, I feel it's very long, and to keep someone engaged, I feel obviously with a big Disney fan with like myself or any of us here, we can get through it with relative ease. But I feel like with the general audience, I feel like it lose their attention quite easily, and it did lose my attention a few times. I was pretty engaged the entire time, but with this, it's just there's so much color, and again the digital 3D and 2D animation. It looks so flawless. Well, the 2D animation at least looks flawless. The 3D is it's dated, but it is what it is. It's just it's one big gem to me. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is like super, super underrated. I mean, this is the kind of stuff where it's like, it's so visually stunning. It's like, why the hell are more people not talking about this thing? Mm-hmm. It's almost like the classier version of Rescuers Down Under. Well, I'll admit Rescuers Down Under is a hella fun movie, but
You gotta wonder how much of it is purely just on the 2000. Think about it. A lot of people are saying, okay, someone's like saying, hey, check out Fantasia, and they're going to check out the original versus seeking out the 2000. They're just going to go with the name recognition of the first one versus kind of the underrated, really even superior in so many aspects. 2000.
I hear you. Yeah.
So prove those folks wrong, everyone. Check out Fantasia 2000. Re-experience the magic.
That's why we're here. Don't just take our word, folks. You should definitely check it out while it's on Netflix, while you still can.
Yeah, while you still can. Exactly. Exactly. Right.
Before they put it in the vault, in the streaming vault. God. It's like a vault on a train. It's moving out of the station, baby.
Oh, I gotta
Watch
get
it
this on
now.
VHS. I have a great VHS player here. I gotta get this thing
Nice.
on VHS.
Or actually get the, I think that the way I experienced Fantasia 2000, I had the DVD Blu-ray combo, which not only has the first Fantasia, but also has 2000, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mhm.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, so the next installment, the next stop on our Fantasia month retrospective, I'm very excited about this one. This is a hypothetical, the Fantasia that could have been. Now, what we're doing here, folks, we're taking 4 shorts from the Walt era, and then 4 shorts from the modern era that fit into the Fantasia style, that fit kind of like the animation set to music thing. Now, the 4 shorts in the Walt era are, they were shorts that were originally going to be made for Fantasia or Fantasia follow-ups. So we're going to talk about stuff like Destino, stuff like Bumble Boogie, and a couple other surprises. And then the modern shorts are all things that we strongly feel have the Fantasia influence on them. So there's going to be a Pixar short in the mix. We're actually going to talk about something very unconventional. We worked in a trailer into the Fantasia talk. You'll see how that works. And also, just Paperman.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sure.
All right. Yeah, I know. Let's save some surprises.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe they know there's 8 shorts. They can do the math, Tiki. Let's not give everything away.
All right. Well, look, the only 2 I really gave away are Paperman and Bumble Boogie. So
now they know there's going to be a Pixar one. Now they know, the other stuff. So yeah.
All right. Well, there's still 4 mysteries. So
All right.
So we'll talk about that soon on the Fantasia that could have been on Fantasia month, and we hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast and come back and see us again real soon.
Bye-bye.
Teams.